Welcome, everyone, to the Back to School edition of the Tucson Macintosh User Group for August. And we'd like to welcome our regular members, sustaining members, new members, first-time guests. Thank you for joining us, Joanne. And switchers. You need not be a member to attend, but some of the benefits of membership include free tickets, free raffle tickets, the super raffle, and Kurt will be taking attendance tonight for the super raffle. And I am taking attendance for the regular raffle. And we will announce, I hope, the winner of the regular raffle before we close out the meeting tonight. As long as somebody remembers to remind me. Because, I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. In September, we're going to have an Ask Me Anything session hosted by Kevin. Probably have an accessibility accessibility minute with Chris Wesselman. If Apple stays true to form, and there will be an event in September regarding iPhone and new iOS coming out in the fall. If this happens, we will have a report probably with Tony Ewing, our own rocket scientist. We may have an additional guest presenter in September. I'm working on something there. I am pleased to announce that the new and improved TMUG.com website is now operational. Is it done? Well, no. Websites are never done. Never in a state that cannot be improved. Our site is no exception, but seems to be working. I feel that the links page can be valuable for every TMUG member. Please take a look. It's tmug.com, the same address we've had for a long, long time, but the site underneath that address is new and improved. We didn't have a meeting in July because of Macstock. And several of the Macstock presenters have agreed to give presentations to TMUG over the next several months. We hope to have a wealth of outside talent for our meetings. It didn't take too much arm twisting to get them to agree. Dave Hamilton of the Mac Geek Gab has signed up for October. He will be giving his take on whatever new hardware and software will be announced in September. Caution, this may end up costing you money because you want to purchase some new equipment. So Tony, and Tony's still here someplace, I think. Yeah, I see you now, Tony. So when you prepare for the September meeting, you don't have to go in terribly in depth on that, whatever you think is necessary, because we may have another outside presenter to share the limelight with you. And we're going to have Dave Hamilton of the Mac Geek Gab to go into more depth a month later when we would have more information about the hardware itself. I'd like to tell everybody to check the chat window for a link to the online presenter review poll. I don't think that Bob has posted it yet, but I'm sure that he will do so quickly. Oh, and there it is. Thank you, Bob. Right on time. We're having a new virtual door prize during our Zoom meeting. Last month's winner is Doriana Peterson. Congratulations, Doriana. The names of tonight's attendees will be collated into a numbered list and used to pick a winner. That too. The monthly door prize has been increased to $30 per month, or pretty much the same that you pay for your membership. Please don't let me close the meeting without picking a door prize winner. Like the super raffle, to be eligible, the screen name displayed must match with the record of current TMUG membership. If we can't identify you, your name will not be placed in the raffle. Are there other announcements, stuff that I forgot? Okay, then moving forward. Are there any for sales or wanted to buy items from the floor? Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Ridge now, who's going to give us his tech update and also the security update for the months of July and August. Welcome everybody who has joined in the last few minutes. I will work hard to get your names on the list. Ridge, are you ready to take it away, sir?
Oh, yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
Well, I wish I knew what was going on with this share screen.
You're muted, Bob.
Thank you. Ridge, do you have Keynote open?
Yeah, that's running.
You have your document open
Yes, I do.
and you have pressed play,
I have what?
pressed the play button.
I have it pressed now.
I think it's
and
a share
playing.
screen issue, Bob.
What do you think, Chris?
Share screen issue.
Okay. So you pressed on, you clicked on share screen down at the bottom of the Zoom window.
Oh, yeah. Are you seeing it now?
Nope. Okay, I think we're going to have to move forward. That means that next up is the Macstock recap. Roger, are you ready to take over for Macstock Saturday? If you get it running, Ridge will come back to you.
You're muted, Roger.
Somebody's paying attention. Thanks, Chris. Roger, unmute.
Sorry. So Macstock is a yearly conference held in Woodstock, Illinois, usually in July, and it's 2 days. I'm going to recap the Saturday presenters, and Bob will do the Sunday presenters. So this is Macstock 7, the 7th year, and was held at the Woodstock Opera House, which was built at the turn of the century. And we were actually in this area here on the right of the main entrance called Stage Left. And it was put together by Mike Potter, who did a great job, as he has every year. And congratulations to Mike and all the other volunteers for another great conference. Well, how did we get to Macstock? Well, Bob and I did a road trip following the old Route 66 wherever we could. We had fairly good weather everywhere we went. This was a great picture that we came across of the sun poking through the rain clouds. And we saw lots of wind turbines. we met lots of interesting people, like this fellow here at the Cherokee Trading Post in Oklahoma. And then Bob met this guy at one of the rest stops. So I don't think he was very talkative, but very interesting fellow. So the second night we stayed in Litchfield, Illinois, which was right on the old Route 66. So when we started out on Thursday morning, we did some exploring, found this old cafe building here. It says Route 66 up on top of the word of cafe here. And this local resident, Earl, drove by and said, "Would you like me to take a picture so you can both be in it?" We said, "Sure." So there's the picture that Earl took. And Earl, being an ambassador of his town, told us about a museum that was just a couple of blocks away. And this is the museum here, the Litchfield Museum and Route 66 Welcome Center. So we drove there about 8:30 and noticed on the door that it opens at 10. So we were kind of loitering around there. And then a lady came out from inside and said, "Would you like to come in?" So we said, "Sure." So we were treated to a fine collection of Route 66 and Litchfield, Illinois memorabilia, including this fine Ford Model A, I believe, and a vintage bicycle and all sorts of other things. And I was fascinated by the neon on this building. I wondered, well, what was this building before it was a museum? So I did a little research and found out that it was built for the museum. So a lot of hard work and a lot of donations went into building this museum. So it's a good place to stop if you're traveling in Illinois, south of Chicago. Our next stop Thursday afternoon was Barry's Midwest Mac Barbecue. So this is Barry's very spacious backyard, as you can see here. Yeah, all set up for the barbecue, and which was delicious. We got to talk to lots of people in the Mac world, and we had music by two people, Mike LeBlanc, who's a podcaster, Dave Hamilton of Mac Geek Gab, and photography by John F. Braun, formerly of Mac Geek Gab. So there was a great barbecue and a wine tasting. So Saturday morning, we're here at Macstock inside the Stage Left Cafe. And as you can see, it's kind of an intimate setting. I think it held about 50 or 60 people. So here we're getting ready. And one of the nice things about Macstock is the conversations you have between the presenters. There was a 15-minute break between each presenter, so it gave the participants plenty of time to talk to each other. Interesting story here. The day before, or 2 days before we got there, we were listening to a podcast, and Mike Potter said the guy that was going to run the video production couldn't come. So I contacted Mike right away and volunteered to do that, which I did. So I ran the Ecamm software and handled the audio so that the live stream and the recordings could go on. So let's look at the presenters. The first presenter was Chuck Joyner of Mac Voices podcast fame. And his topic was live and learn in the future. And the theme of the conference was learn. So Chuck asked the question, are you utilizing the Apple provided software? Are you aware that there's 58 apps that come with your Mac from Apple at no additional charge? And there's 39 apps that come with iOS. So some of the examples that you may or may not be using, Text Edit, which is a no frills word processor. Numbers, a spreadsheet, which you could use for projects around the house to check, to put in budgets and things like that. Pages, which is great for creating flyers and newsletters. Freeform, which is a fairly new program that allows you to really have a lot of freedom in what you put together and collaborate with other people. And of course, it comes with a podcast app, which opens the world to many, many, many different topics that are now on podcasts. So he mentioned also that you can customize the Finder, and part of the Finder at the bottom of your screen, of course, is the dock. And he suggested that maybe you haven't removed apps that you don't use, and of course that you can add apps that you frequently use, and that you can actually put the dock on the sides so that you have more room at the bottom, especially helpful on MacBooks. So another area of customization is the menu bar at the top of your screen. You can again remove icons you don't use and add icons that you use frequently. So this was Chuck. And as you can see here on the screen, he was talking about both software and are using Apple's best tools, which he mentioned to be the M series of computers, which are so much more efficient and productive. So our second presenter was Rachel Schmitz, and she entitled her presentation, "The Case for the Lifelong Learner." And there's Rachel. So she suggested that maybe some of us are over-consuming media, and that maybe we should think about being more intentional about our technology use. She felt that we should be creating first and consuming second. So she has this diagram, which starts with curiosity at the top, leading to research, and then learning, discovering, applying what you learned and discovered, and then the cycle starts over again. So this is all part of the being a creator. So Rachel pointed out that we inherently desire to learn, and continual learning is essential in every job, every device, even every hobby. So the more we get into these things, the more we want to learn to make them a better situation. So Dave Ginsburg followed with Cloud Services Demystified. So he was talking about the benefits of the cloud, which is that it's efficient, flexible, cost-effective, secure, and strategic. So he highlighted that there are two kinds of clouds, basically the public cloud, which is publicly shared over the internet, and the private cloud, which is dedicated to certain people and, of course, is more secure. So he outlined examples of cloud storage providers, those that provide apps such as Google Apps, Microsoft 365, and I work on iCloud, email providers, Gmail, Outlook, and MacMail, photos and videos from Google Photos, YouTube, and Flickr, and web hosting by people like Bluehost, GoDaddy, and HostGator. So these are all cloud storage providers. And then he emphasized iCloud Plus, which is what you have when you pay Apple for any amount of storage. And that includes all these different features here. And then this is what you see when you go to iCloud.com from any computer that has internet connectivity. And then down here, we have your pricing for your different storage capacities on iCloud. And then we had lunch. Thanks for the action shot, Bob. Really appreciate that. So then, and in the afternoon, Dave Hamilton talked about your home network supercharged. So he's talked about network attached storage, also known as NAS. And he targeted mostly the Synology drive, compared it to Dropbox and Google Drive. So he pointed out that Synology supports Time Machine, and you can actually support multiple Macs on the same Synology drive with separate time machine volumes for each. And also Synology has a storage manager, so they have kind of your local cloud storage available. So for those of you that don't know what Synology is, they have devices, hardware devices called disk stations, and they start at 2 hard drives. The most common configuration for home users is 5, but they have much larger capacities for corporations and businesses. So it's a fail-safe system. If one drive fails, it automatically reconfigures itself so that you do not lose any data. So he explained and went through in detail how the software works, how the dashboards work to control your Synology drive. He suggested for using Seagate Exos hard drives. These are drives that are designed to be operated 24/7 and hold up better in a environment like that. He also mentioned that third-party software runs on Synology. He gave a good example of Plex, which is a media software system where you can store any movies and things that you have and play them back anywhere you have internet capability. Next up was Kirsten C., who talked about shortcut superpowers. So Shortcuts is the app on your iOS and your Mac. She mentioned the way to look at it is why, how, and what. Start with why. So why would you want to use shortcuts? Well, to invoke repetitive actions, to trigger HomeKit automations, and to display useful information. And how do you run shortcuts? Well, you use the Shortcuts app, and there is a gallery of shortcut apps available to you. So you can actually select apps that have already been made so you don't have to. And she highlighted what to do with shortcuts. You can use it to like open the apps that you use in the morning for your daily computer situation. You can use it to turn on and off lights, and you can use it even to clean up text, such as changing quotation marks to smart quotation marks. So she thought you could think of shortcuts as a recipe. You have a series of steps, just like you do in a recipe, and it produces a final product. And then those shortcuts can sync to all of your devices. Next, we had the Macstock Short Film Fest. This picture is actually in our previous venue, which was a McHenry Junior College. So you can see it was a kind of a bigger auditorium. So this was the Film Fest for 2023. And it was hosted by Wally Czerwinski, who's a professional videographer from Canada. So he presented several short films. They were limited to about 3 minutes. And he mentioned that by doing these short films, you can learn from the subject matter. You can see how videos were made, and you learn about the people that made the video. So this was an example of using the trailer feature built into iMovie as the ending to one of the short films. And this was actually done by Cindy. And here's Cindy explaining her motivation behind doing the short film and receiving a custom-made pin as a participant. And this is what the pin looks like. That's my pin from the movie that Bob and I produced for the Film Fest in 2019. Next, we had the Mac Geek Gab Caucus. So that was a lineup of podcasters that you may have heard, On the left, we have Dave Hamilton of the Mac Geek Gab, Adam Christensen of the MacCast, John F. Braun, formerly of Mac Geek Gab, Jeff Gamet, who's on several different podcasts, Allison Sheridan from Podfeet podcast, and Pilot Pete, who is also on the Mac Geek Gab. And I actually looked all over the internet for Pilot Pete's last name and could not find it. So if you
Harmon.
want,
Pete
Pardon?
Harmon. Peter Harmon.
oh, really?
No, that's your name.
Yeah.
I'll find it.
Okay, you find it. And this has actually been made into an episode of the Mac Geek Gab. So if you'd like to watch it, I will paste the YouTube link after I get done here into the chat so you can watch it. So it was very interesting. So afterwards on Saturday afternoon, we had hors d'oeuvres or a meal at a local restaurant that was in walking distance from the Opera House. This is DC Cobb. So we continued our discussions and observations with all of the participants. And now here's Bob.
Well, first of all, it is Peter Harmon. I didn't see the connection between Roger Harmon and Peter Harmon, but it is Peter.
Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah. Your long lost cousin.
I guess so.
Okay. Now, normally I would take over next to do Sunday, but since I forgot Chris Wesselman and the accessibility minute, I'm going to insert him there. Chris, are you ready to go?
I could be. I mean, Bob, I could also go after you if you want.
Okay, you can go after them. Ridge, are you think you are ready?
I'm going to try it again. I shut down and restarted,
Okay, go
but
ahead.
I should probably not have updated to the latest version of Zoom today. But we'll see. Share screen. There we go.
Not showing it here yet.
There we
It's
go.
coming up now.
Here we go.
Okay.
But for August anyway. And here's the first set of updates that you all ought to be thinking about. 1Password and Adobe had the ones that are shown. And if you're using the Affinity design programs, that was updated. And the others are there alphabetically listed. Probably important are the Chrome updates. There were a bunch of them between 1.14 to 1.16. And Firefox also. And Mac Tracker, if you're looking at want to look at all the information about Macs, that just was updated today. And also, if you're wanting to use that utility that shows you everything that's on your drive and how much space it's taken up, that was updated. And Thunderbird for the Mozilla people, they updated their email program, and Graphic Converter, our old fifth standby, was updated. Mac Tracker. And Office from Mac had several updates. And the Pixelmator for the iOS and had several updates, as well as Pixelmator Pro for your Mac, and TechTool Pro that got updated. And Zoom 5.15.7 was today. So that's why I've got the 15.5 through today's, because there were several updates, and Quicken was updated as well. Now here's Apple. They updated Big Sur and Monterey and Ventura. And they had some rapid security response updates to Ventura and the iOS iPad OS software. And Safari for Monterey and Big Sur had several updates to 6.6, not 16. But the Watch OS got updated if you're running version 8 or if you're running version 9. and 9.6.1 was just updated. Now, here's some more of the updates from Apple this time period. TV OS and the HomePod software and iMovie. And if you're running a studio display, its firmware got updated. And the professional programs of Logic Pro, Final Cut Pro, Compressor, Mainstage, and Motion, they all got updated. But now coming, we should see them pretty soon. Sometime we've got Sonoma 14 is coming, and a new iOS and iPad OS versions are coming, and a Vision OS for those goggle-like things that Apple just released. That operating system will be coming soon. And another watch operating system updates coming, as well as a TV update, TV OS update. And the HomePod software had an update, and Xcode for the programmers is coming. Now, for the finances, there was an investment firm that says Apple is headed toward 4 trillion valuation sometime next year. And that, in that sense, Apple is playing chess and others playing checkers. Apple just released their third quarter report with 81.8 billion total revenue. And the other revenues that were included in that are listed. They had a big services revenue this time they liked, and they declared a cash dividend as of August 17th. Now, here is the General Motors decided to ditch Apple's CarPlay and Android Auto in all of the new vehicles. And they're taking a lot of gruff from the car salespeople, and who say that that's really bad because customers are only going to be offered some sort of a General Motors replacement that'll cost a monthly and a yearly subscription fee for what the Apple CarPlay provided for free. And so far, General Motors hasn't told people what's coming and what it's going to be called, and they're all thinking that they're probably going to have lower sales as a result of all that. Now, Apple saves. We had a man in Ontario fall off a ladder, striking his head, and so he was not able to respond when his Apple Watch Series 8 fall detection feature dialed emergency services. Well, his wife came out to his side and spoke to the responders via his watch. And after he was taken to the emergency room in an ambulance, he was given 7 stitches. And while he was in recovery, he was saying, if it wasn't for the watch, I might be dead by now. And then recently, this past week, during the recent Maui wildfire, there was a trapped family in a car. They couldn't get a cell phone tower to respond anywhere, so they had to use their Apple iPhone emergency SOS via satellite feature on their iPhone 14. They were able to summon emergency response, and they were rescued. Thank for the emergency SOS via satellite feature. Now, as far as maintenance goes, the self-service repair program has been updated to include some more of Apple's products, the iPhone 14 lineup and the M2 models of the MacBook Air 13-inch and the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and also the M1 models of the 24-inch iMac, the Mac Mini, and Mac Studio. And in other aspects of Apple's maintenance, the European Council mandates now that companies, including Apple, have to ensure that the batteries in the iPhone and their other products are replaceable by users. And they state that by 2027, portable batteries incorporated into appliances should be removable and replaceable by the end user. And Apple is expected to eventually comply with that. Here's a kind of a funny thing that popped up. They had this is an AirTag story. There was a Texas restaurant had a 6 foot tall, 150-pound fiberglass bull statue mascot outside next to the entrance of their restaurant. That's made of fiberglass, and it's chained to a bench, which is cemented to the ground. The chain had been cut and the station taken 20 miles away. And they used the Find My app because they had a well-placed Apple AirTag on it. And they were able to find it and they now bring that mascot inside every night and put it back on the perch in the morning. And these are some of the new emojis we should expect coming in next year. They're handicapped emojis down on the bottom are well liked by the handicapped community, of course. And now, as far as the hard drive, the disk, solid state disk drives from SanDisk. There's a couple of online reports to say that those drives are wiping people's data and abruptly failing, and there's several online retailers no longer recommending them because they fail very frequently. And some also report that brand new SanDisk Extreme Portable Solid State drives fail integrity testing when they use certification software to see how good the drive is. And Adam Anx's Tidbits recommends being sure to have good backups of any data that you have stored on a SanDisk portable solid state drive. Now, as far as rumors go, there's online rumors that the 3 watches are coming this fall, which will include 2 Series 9 models and a second generation Ultra model. And then there's another thought that Apple might release 2 new 14-inch iMacs containing M3 CPUs later this year or early next year. And how about a 30-inch 5K display iMac with an M3 CPU coming late this year or next? Now, how about an iMac with a 32-inch or larger display in 2024? And then talking about the so-called Apple Car, and the latest estimate is when it might appear sometime in 2026. And then as far as going to iPad Pro models with organic LED displays might be coming early next year. And how about Macs with M3 CPUs in them come as early as October? And the suspected models that will contain an M3 CPU includes iMacs, MacBook Airs, and 13-inch MacBook Pros. And how about the latest estimate as when Apple products will include the M3 CPU? And many people are saying sometime next year. And how about, is Apple going to hold an event on September 13th to unveil an iPhone 15 and new Apple Watches? That's another rumor. Apple supposedly is now testing a Mac Mini with an M3 chip in it and 24 gigabytes of RAM. Now, the coming iPhone 15 models are going to maybe have a USB-C port instead of a Lightning port. And are they going to be announced without a live event? Who knows? As far as all of those rumors go, we'll have to wait and see. But that's what the internet rumor mill is talking about right now. Now, how about this Nostalgia Corner item? A while back, we talked about a 4 gigabyte original iPhone in a factory sealed box going up for auction. And the first bid they had was $10,000, and it finally sold for over $190,000. They originally expected it to go for between $50 and $100. And that auction ended in the middle of July. Wow, $190,000 plus for an original iPhone 4 gig iPhone in its factory sealed box. And here's another nostalgia item. A pair of custom-made sports Apple computer sneakers from the mid-90s available. They're for sale by Sotheby's, which is an auction house. And you can see what they look like here in the picture. And the asking price is $50,000, and they're supposed to be brand new in the box and include an alternative pair of red laces. How about a pre-Apple check signed by both Jobs and Wozniak being auctioned, and who expect it to go for at least $50,000? This check is believed to have been used to buy the printed circuit boards for the Apple I when you look at the payee amount and date. And as far as TMUG items for sale, we still have iron-on and so on patches or pins. If you want one, contact me or Kurt Blanchard. Thanks for your attention to this part of my presentation, and now we'll turn to the items of security interest for this month. Adobe had security fixes in Cold Fusion and InDesign. Google had security fixes in Chrome for Mac and iOS. Those updates were pretty significant. 46 between 1.14 and 1.15 for the Mac, and for iOS, 24 fixes between 1.14 and 1.15. And Mozilla did Firefox and for Mac and the iOS as well, with the Thunderbird updates. And Microsoft had security fixes in Office for Mac, 16.74 through 16.75. And Apple had security fixes, lots of fixes in Big Sur on their way to 11.7.9, 32 fixes. How about Monterey with 37 fixes when they on their way up to 12.6.8, and Mac Ventura up to 13.5 had 49 fixes. And Big Sur and Monterey got Safari updates that had security fixes in them. And the iOS and iPad OSs, they had a bunch of fixes when they went to 16.6 and 15.7.8. tvOS had 22 fixes, and the watchOS had 3 total fixes, and the OS 8.8.1 had 1. As far as cybersecurity news goes, Bitdefender cybersecurity researchers uncovered a set of malicious artifacts online that they say are part of a sophisticated toolkit designed to target Apple systems. As now they say very little info is available about any of them, although they may appear later in active attacks against the Mac operating system. And also cybersecurity researchers from Elastic Security Labs uncovered a new version of Rust Bucket, a known malware that targets Mac OS powered devices. The new version is more persistent and harder to detect. To infect the device, the victim must first need to download and run a Mac OS installer file that delivers a functional but malicious PDF reader, so be careful of your downloads. And a newly spotted security threat called Shadow Vault works in the background on Mac operating system to access logins, banking details, and more personal data. According to Guard Cyber Intelligence Research, a new specific threat to Mac OS has been uncovered. Since it runs in the background on Macs, though, users presumably have to be tricked into downloading and running it. When it was discovered, Shadow Vault was being offered for sale for $500 for 1 month. So if you're a bad guy and you want to use it for a while, it's going to cost you $500 a month. It claims to be able to extract passwords, cookies, credit cards, and wallets, and all Chromium-based extensions. And users can prevent security threats by 1, being wary of anything unexpected and not following links or opening files unless they are absolutely certain that they're genuine. And always downloading software from trusted sources such as Apple's App Store or directly from the developer. And here's something good now. Mac World Online says that they're the best antivirus for the Mac that you pay for is Intego Mac Internet Security X9, about $25 a year. And the best free antivirus service is Avast Security for Mac, which also has a premium version that's available for $40 a year. And thank you for your attention. And of course, the moral of this presentation is to stay safe. And I will now escape screen sharing and turn it back over to Bob.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you for all your work there. And I'm going to go ahead with the Sunday report for the Macstock 7. And then we're going to have the accessibility minute. So let me see if I can. That looks like the one that I want. Are you seeing my screen?
Not yet.
How about now? Are you seeing the
Here
whole
we go.
screen?
Yep.
Looks like we can see that. Okay. So Roger gave you the lowdown on Saturday. My job is to talk about, he also talked about the Midwest Mac Barbecue on Thursday. And I'm talking about Sunday. But what happened on
Bob,
Thursday, Friday?
we're seeing your desktop, not just Keynote.
Okay, I'll try to undo that, stop share. And then let's start share and see if we can do just this and share.
There you go.
Okay. So that means that there was nothing happening on Friday. So Roger and I were there on Friday, and what are we going to do? We could have gone to a Cubs game or a White Sox game, or we could have gone to Navy Pier or gone down to the Loop and gone shopping. None of that really appealed to us. So what we did is we went to about 20 minutes away from the hotel and went to Volo Museum in Volo, Illinois. They have all different kinds of attractions there. We went to the museum part, which is almost exclusively automobiles. And here we have Roger on the left. We have Roger looking at the 59 Cadillac hearse that was used as or ambulance that was used in Ghostbusters. In the upper right, we have a Vespa. Is that right, Kurt? Yeah.
Right.
I have a Vespa scooter, very much like the one that Kurt had in college. And he actually used that to commute between college and home, which is New Hampshire to Rhode Island. That must have been a really long trip on a scooter.
You bet.
Lower right, we have a Volkswagen 23 window microbus from the late 50s, early 60s. And this one had air conditioning. If you look at the windshield, you can see how the windshields tilt up. And that is microbus air conditioning. Now, some of this will be a little bit the same as what Roger did. Take a look at the venue in Woodstock, Illinois. Here's the Opera House. Roger showed you a picture of that. Woodstock, Illinois is the town center is built around a little park, and the park has the requisite bandstand and memorial to Civil War soldiers. On the right, on the left, on the upper right, we have I think that was the bank building. And you can see this was Saturday morning early. They had a farmer's market. I was able to walk around because we got there early because Roger was working. In the lower left, we have another one of the buildings. It was the church block. I don't think it's a church anymore. The store in the bottom level is the Blue Thistle. Sunday. Sunday starts with Roger back on the bridge, hard at work. Or, well, maybe this was lunch. Mike Potter starts by welcoming everyone, followed by a short infomercial. Mike called it the 5-minute mug. And look who that was. It was my job to convince the attendees to join at least one user group and be active, because all the people there were user group people, even if they didn't realize it. They are our people. And we might have even gotten a few converts. First up was Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast. And she talked about the power of learning by teaching. And I had to cut, I didn't cut my 5 minutes short of, actually, it took 7 minutes, but I didn't want to step on Allison's time. Some of the points she wanted to make were, if you're going to teach something, you need to learn all about it. This is her kind of mantra, and this is how she goes about that. Don't read the manual. Push all the buttons. The manual is like a last resort, or maybe call or email for help. I don't think this works for me, but that seems to work for Allison and work okay, because she's taught an awful lot of stuff, especially on
Screencasts online.
Thank you, Roger. I was waiting for you to jump in there. Screencasts online, where they have a lot of excellent tutorials. Next up was Brittany Smith. And she wants you to save your brain by working smarter, not harder. Point she's trying to make is prioritize saving your cognitive resources, because your brain is your most valuable asset. Use the tools to save your brain. Some of this was similar to what Rachel Smits was talking about, using the tools to help you do your job rather than having to figure it out every time. Next up was Jeff Gamet of many podcasts, and he was talking about high-res audio. Started out with, what's the best audio format? Is it vinyl, CD, digital? And his answer was, the one you like is the best format for you. Here's Jill Kinley, and she was talking about learning technology with sticks. You see, she has one in her hand. She appears often on the NosillaCast, and she's referred to as Jill of the North Woods. She hails from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, but currently lives in Madison, Wisconsin. Jill is a talented speaker who kept everybody awake, alive, interested, and pointed in the same direction. And she has agreed to make a presentation to TMUG. It's not scheduled yet, probably November, December, January, somewhere in there. And her points are, there's always stuff, always new tech, always stuff to learn. And even if you don't want to, at times we must change. And sticks can help teach, motivate, and reward. Also, keep your attention by knocking you over the head. Then we had Marty Jenkins. He is a professor at a college in Ohio. And his talk was The Apple of My AI, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love My New Dark Overlord, which is a quote from Dr. Strangelove, I believe. Many people in academia think that AI is a terrible thing. People are going to cheat, but he thinks it can be useful. And the text to image generation, grammar correction, and replying to emails are all things that AI can do. But probably the most important part is learning how to ask the right questions. Because if you can't ask the right questions, you're not going to get the answer you expect. Marty has also agreed to make a presentation to TMUG. But I've sent him an email, but he hasn't replied as yet. So I hope he will reply and make a presentation to us, because this guy is a college professor. He has been doing this for a long time. He knows how to engage an audience and keep them interested and keep them laughing. Very good presenter. Then there's Mike Schmitz, Rachel's husband from Saturday. And he is a well-respected podcaster and teacher and so forth. And his talk was about PKM, Personal Knowledge Manager. And the points he was trying to make was personal knowledge. We all have personal knowledge, but we need to put it someplace where we might lose track of it, such as tasks, articles, archives, events, and so forth. And if you have it someplace and you can find it later, you are golden. The day ended with Wally Cherwinski and Macstock Film Fest, day 2. The films were solicited from the people attending, and the requirements were that they must be 2.5 minutes or less, that there are no winners, there's no losers, no prizes. It's really all there just for the fun of everybody. At the end of Saturday, most of the Macstockers gathered together for a group portrait outside the Woodstock Opera House. If you look closely, you can find Roger, Jill, Allison, myself, Kirsten Sia, and all the people that were made presentations, and everybody was hanging around out there. Also, at the same time, Pete Harmon was flying a drone and kind of took this whole thing in drone footage, but I haven't seen a link to how to get to that as yet. There was an awful lot of stuff that was very, very valuable, and you can share in it if you're unable to make it. And I believe there's nobody here except Roger and myself who made it to Macstock. You can share in it by purchasing a digital pass to Macstock 7, where you can watch all of the presentations and see what happened and learn and get to know these people. One of the things that Chuck Joyner and Mike Potter always say is, if you go to Macstock and don't know anybody, before you leave, you will have a bunch of friends, because they really are all our people. Kurt has been there, and so has Melissa, and I'm sure that they will concur that will happen. If you go to Macstock, you'll be able to make friends. You can go up to anybody and talk to them, and they'll be happy to talk back at you. And that's how I got to twist some arms for presentations for TMUG. Are there any questions?
Well, I thought I'd share a goal that Bob and I talked about actually on our trip in 2019, and that would be to have so many people coming from Tucson that we'd charter a bus to get to Macstock and back. So make that your goal.
Okay, sounds good to me. Okay, I'm no longer sharing the screen, am I? Is my share down? Okay,
Yes.
David Eklund says it's okay. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Wesselman, and he's going to give us the accessibility minute. Then we're going to do a short tips and tricks from Tucson Macintosh User Group members. Chris, are you ready to start it up and take over?
I believe I am.
Take it away.
Let's see. First of all, I'm going to make sure I can share this. Can you all see that? The notes file that
Yes,
says TMUG. Okay, and that's all you see, right?
right.
Okay, great. What I wanted to do tonight is talk about 3 interrelated things that are really game changers in iOS 17. And as I tend to stick with the public betas, and a good thing, because this year one of the developer betas actually was changed. So I'm not sure what happened on those machines, but because it's a production machine, I wanted to wait. And I had to patiently wait for that until July when it came out. And what my policy has been is to first run it on my iPad. And then if it's really seems like it's sufficiently stable, later on, I would run it on the iPhone. But I always wait on the Mac OS because some of the software, a lot of the photography software I run makes no guarantees. In fact, sometimes Adobe won't even confirm until November. But what happened this year is there's 3 features in there that is, one, they have taken away the HEY for the S lady. So, and the setting is you can use both or not. So in other words, you can just refer it to the S lady name. And it's raised a kind of a storm as to whether or not people are going to be doing it by accident. And ironically, I haven't noticed that very much on the iPhone. But the thing that got me to go ahead and start running it on the iPhone was something really near and dear to my heart, which I've talked about before. And that is the text replacement engine and dictation. And they are very much improved. I mean, Apple was doubting this, and thank goodness they finally fixed it. And if we have time, I'll tell you a backstory about that. But so basically, the same things will be in Sonoma. And, it'd be interesting to speculate. Maybe Tony has some ideas on this about why. I think that, the iOS equivalents are finally going to be run on the Mac instead of the old Intel equivalents. I'm not sure what happens if you have an Intel Mac, but you'll probably get the old ones, I guess. And I think maybe part of what's doing this is Vision OS, because as you may know with the headset, you can literally pull your Mac or your iPhone or your iPad right into the Apple Vision space and be visualizing data from multiple sources, which is a really exciting thing for people who do that kind of work. So I accidentally tried the dictation on the iPad in late June, and I was absolutely blown away. It's every bit as good as Dragon. And thank God, finally, I've waited 15 years for this, and that's part of the backstory. I don't know if we'll have time, but it is something that is going to be really exciting coming up. And because, with iOS, most of us go ahead and update right away when it comes out. And so, and there is no need, by the way, to have it also running on the Mac. They seem to, at least at this point, unless something changes when Sonoma actually comes out, and I'll be following that. You don't need to worry about having Sonoma on your Mac. Also, in terms of new accessibility features, there is going to be a connect mode for iPhone, made for iPhone hearing aids, which means basically any hearing aid that you can connect to your iPhone and take phone calls on, and which will be a pretty nice thing if we can switch back and forth. Right now, it's a one-way deal. In other words, I can set up my hearing aids with my iPhone or with my iPad, but not both. And switching back and forth means you have to forget one and then pair the other one, and it's really tedious. In addition to that, they are going to have, as you can see here, phonetic suggestions when editing text with voice control. So that could be pretty interesting for people who need to use voice control, basically who can't type. So that'll be a really exciting thing for the accessibility community. But I learned years ago when I was working in California that unless text to speech, or speech to text, excuse me, is about 93% accurate, it's really useless for anybody who is really challenged in that way, because going back and making corrections is way too much work. So this is something to look forward to in the future. It really is a lot better. And I think that's about it. Unless we have some time to kill, in which case I could tell my backstory. What do you think, Bob?
Chris, I think we're going to move forward because I
Okay,
forgot to
no
play
worries.
a short little movie.
Okay.
So if you can stop your share.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, please send in any requests that you all have in terms of the accessibility stuff. I'm sort of depending on everybody, and we'll go through all of this in detail as we're going along. But I just wanted to pass that on about the dictation, because I think it's a pretty big deal. If anybody's ever used Dragon Naturally Speaking, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay. So one of the movies that was submitted to the Macstock Film Fest was about Iceland, and it was done by Steve Sheridan, Allison Sheridan's husband, and it runs about 2.5, 3 minutes, and I think it's pretty cute. And let's see, what do I got to do to make sure that
In the lower left-hand corner, when you go to share a screen, it says use system audio.
Thank you. I will get there. Lower
Left.
Isn't there 2 checkboxes in there? There aren't
Unless
there.
they changed it on the new update.
You may have to stop your share to restart it.
I think that probably, oh, okay. Shared computer sound.
There we go.
Okay, so that's probably it. So here we go. And if you don't hear anything in the next 5 seconds, let me know.
10, 11, 12, 15, 14, 15, 16.
Seyðisfjord.
Thanks to Steve Sheridan for sharing that with everybody at Macstock and with us. I would take a moment and say that in the chat you will find a link to the presenter feedback form, and I would urge you all to click on that link and have it opened up in Safari for you or your browser of choice, and fill out the form and let us know what you think, because it helps us prepare for the next meetings coming up. So now we have a little bit of tips and tricks for you, and I'm going to show that as well. And here, let's see, there's the right one. And are you seeing tips and tricks?
We are.
Okay, excellent. These are things that
Yeah, it's not playing, Bob.
this is a keynote.
I know, but we're seeing your slides on the left. It's not playing.
Oh. Right. We see the thumbnails.
You
So I
see it the
think-
way it's supposed to be now?
No, I think you have to hit play before you screen share.
Okay, let's try that again.
There you go.
Okay. Very good. I asked for audience participation to send in tricks and tips, and some of you did, and some are ones that I've come across. We're going to go through these, and I'm going to go through them rather quickly. I have done a show notes, and the show notes is in TMUG Talk, and it's there for you to see and download, because some of these, it would take a half an hour to go through that, and we have it for your own research in the show notes. So first I'm going to start with Apple TV, which is an application that also has, or a device that also has accessibility in it. Here's the Apple TV screen from my Apple TV, and sometimes it can be too subtle. Which application here is the one that I have clicked on, or if you want to call it that. And if you look closely, you'll see that it's settings. It's a little bit bigger, and it has the name of it below it, but you really kind of got to look for it. And I found out about this tip, and I really, really like it. Here we have Apple TV Plus, and Ted Lasso was the one that's selected, but you got to look at a few of them before you figure out that's the one. And you can go to the settings and accessibility and go to display. And right now it's on default. We want to change that to high contrast. And then when you go back, this is what you see. So you see the same amount of making it larger, and it has this white line around it, makes it a lot easier to find. Here we are back in Apple TV Plus, and if you haven't seen Silo, I highly recommend it. Now, the hard part was taking a screenshot of your Apple TV. It involves a USB cable, your Mac, and Xcode. See the show notes for a full explanation. With those explanations, I was able to get it taken care of, and it wasn't that big of a deal, but you got to follow the directions. Here's some quick tips, something that are too small to have its own slide. The option key is your friend. Command Option, click on a folder in the dock, and it opens it in Finder. Shift Command Option V does a paste and match style in Mac OS in most other applications on your Mac. And take a look through your menus in the Finder and in every application. So click on a menu, you can see what's in there. Stop clicking on it, press down the Option key and click on it again, and you're going to see different stuff. And it's going to make things better for you. And you can use it with the brightness and volume and mission control and Wi-Fi menu. Here's some other quickies. You know how hard it is you have this power supply. Well, what the heck does this power? I don't remember. A silver Sharpie is a great thing for marking black power supplies and telling you what it powers. So you can find it later on and go, well, I don't even have that thing anymore. I'm going to get rid of this power supply. If you have a Mac desktop with an M series chip, get a keyboard with Touch ID. I thought, gee, that might be nice because it's nice on the Mac laptops. But I didn't really want to spend the $180 Apple wants for a keyboard with Touch ID. I found it later as a refurb on Amazon for $150, $160. I decided to give it a try. And I really, really like having the Touch ID on the keyboard. It does require a Mac with an M series chip. On your iPhone, press and hold in an area that doesn't have an application, and it invokes the jiggle mode much faster. Here's an alternate way to power off your Mac. I think this came from Kurt. Say, hey, S lady, power off, and it'll power down your iPhone. If you want to access the emoji picker, Command Control Spacebar. We're back on the Mac. Control click on an image and choose Quick Actions and Convert Image. And you can convert an image from one file type to another. And again, did that come from you, Kurt? No? I don't know where I got it. Here's a recommendation. Only buy and use MFI cables from known good manufacturers. Here's a tip you can create. I've created a folder called apps and put aliases to my second level apps, the ones not in the dock, in there. And then I put that folder in the dock so I can get at those commonly used files or apps more quickly. Do you wear bifocals or progressive lens glasses? I bet you there's quite a few of us out there that do. Consider getting a pair of computer glasses, unquote, with single vision lenses and blue blocker coatings. Save your eyes and it'll help you out. Use a clipboard manager. This might be the subject of a demonstration later on or presentation later on in another episode of TMUG's monthly meetings. It can help you a lot. USB-C. It was touted as the be-all, end-all, and everything you're ever going to want in a cable to connect your stuff. The European Union thinks it's the greatest thing since sliced bread and chocolate ice cream. But some of them don't move data. Some of them do both, data and power. Here's a way that you can label the cables so you know what happens. The cables on the left, there happen to be Apple cable. It happens to be an Apple cable, and it will pass both data and power. The cable on the right passes power only. It's a third-party cable. Sometimes that's what you want. If you are getting your power from a public place to plug in, it'd be good to have a cable that only passes power, because sometimes there's somebody on the other side of that plug mining your computer or your phone or your iPad for data. Someone you love should know your Mac's password. In the event that you are not able or around to unlock the computer. How to reset your HomePod. Sometimes your HomePod gets itself in a state and you don't really know what's going on. And it's trying to tell you through status lights and so forth. In the show notes, there's a links to tell you how to do these things. Probably something you should know. Passkeys. Passkeys are the newest thing that are not passwords, but they are more secure and they're easier to use. It's just starting up and not everybody uses them, but some people are. And if you go to passkeys.directory on the internet, you can learn what websites and what applications currently take the new passkeys or support them. So here's the scenario. A young person is about to graduate from college. A friend of said young person is in near the front of the audience and said, okay, I will take a movie of you as you walk across the stage, shake the chancellor's hand, and get your diploma. A really nice thing. Unfortunately, when the graduate's turn comes up, the friend flips up the iPhone and turns on the camera, and it's not in movie mode, it's in still photo mode. By the time that person figured that out, switched it over to movie mode, the guy had already received his diploma and was off the stage. If you need a movie quickly, press and hold the shutter button, and it will start taking a movie and keep taking a movie until you release the shutter button. If you want to lock it on, press and slide to the right on the shutter button, and it will lock it into movie mode and keep recording a movie until you stop it or it runs out of memory. The sad fact of life is major appliances are now manufactured to last 3 to 5 years. And you might need some service. In the meantime, when you buy a new appliance or some other product like a printer, download the PDF version of the product from the manufacturer and put it into Apple Notes. It's a good idea to append copies of the receipt, a photo of the serial number tag, and any regular warranty or extended warranty information. Those are the things you're going to need to get the appliance or product serviced or replaced. And if you do that and put that in to Apple Notes, it's going to be on your Mac, your iPad, and your iPhone, all of your stuff all the time. It's really a good choice. This came from Kurt, didn't it, Kurt? He's nodding his head.
It did.
Okay. You got a bunch of old black and white photos from family. Here's a place where you can colorize your photos. And you do it for free. But you're going to end up with a low resolution image. If you subscribe or pay as you go, you can get high definition images. And that's https palette.fm. Thank you, Kurt. And I think this is from Kurt as well. Don't you hate those CAPTCHAs? You know you really need them because it helps keep you secure. But here's a way to get around it and still be secure. Go to settings, type your name, choose password security, scroll down to automatic verification, and click turn on. Again, all this stuff is in the show notes. Are there any questions, additional suggestions?
I have an additional suggestion.
Please share that with us, Roger.
So I came across this today on 2 different websites stating that Apple said And I tried to find on Apple's site where they said it, and I couldn't find it in the news releases or in the support documents. But anyway, what they said was it's not a good idea to charge your iPhone, iPad overnight, because your battery could catch on fire. So it sounds like it's inconvenient. I've been doing this lately where I charge it during the day. So when I go to bed, it has at least a 30 or 40% charge, which lasts through the night. It seems to draw very little energy during the night. And the other thing that they pointed out was to make sure you don't fall asleep and drop your iPhone in the bed, because it could get covered up, and that would cause it to heat up more than normal. And again, you have the fire possibility, and also not to sleep on the cable. So keep the phone out of your bed, away from your bed, and don't charge it during the night.
Okay, excellent suggestion. I have an additional one as well. And that is
also.
Okay, we'll get to, go ahead, Kevin. Thank
Oh,
you for
sorry.
joining us, even if it's only the top half of your head.
Yeah, I don't know if people know about this. A new app I found this week that uses artificial intelligence to pull people and animals out of photos. And it's really cool. It's called SnapClear. It's snapclear.app. Also, iOS has that feature built into it on the iPhone. I don't know if anybody is aware of that. If you open up a photo on your iPhone and you hold your finger down over a person, you'll see that person glimmer. Then if you go to a Notes app or something else, you could actually paste that into a document, and it's only the person with all the background removed.
Okay, excellent additional suggestions. I have an additional one, and that is, I heartily suggest that you put a case on your iPhone and iPad along with a screen protector. And that has been driven home just recently by someone in this meeting, but she shall remain nameless, but her initials are Gretchen, who had an incident with her phone, and it cracked the screen protector. Luckily, it cracked the screen protector because it didn't crack the screen, and we were able to pull the screen protector off, clean the surface, put a new screen protector on, and she's protected again. Even if it were covered for free, just the angst and time it would take to get the screen replaced makes the screen protector worth it. The brand that I've used and seems to be good is called Am Film, like American, Am Film, and it is well worth the few dollars you will spend. Okay, now comes the yes.
I have a suggestion.
Yes, Jerry.
Is that charging iPhones, one of the best things to do, I've discovered, is charge it over breakfast. I mean, you should be eating breakfast, not reading your iPhone. So by the time that I get through with my breakfast, my phone's charged.
You blaspheme, my friend. You're supposed to have your iPhone in your hand at all times. Okay, so now comes the part you all been waiting for, which is the
Door prize.
picking the door prize winner. Okay, so now I'm going to ask the S lady, pick a number between 1 and 28. Let's see. Karen Liptek. Karen, are you still here? You're still here. Are you a TMUG member?
I'm here. Yeah.
You are?
But I'm not, no, I'm not a member yet.
Oh, okay. Well, you could have won $30.
Well, we'll see what number people think.
Okay.
Oh,
Pick a number between 1 and 28.
Me?
Okay, I think that's somebody who's also not a
Oh.
TMUG member. It's Dunhampt Swift. I don't recognize that name. And are you a TMUG member?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Well, third time's the charm. Pick a number between 1 and 28. 6. Danny Smith. I know you're a member. And you have not won this prize in the last 3 months?
Correct.
Correct? Okay.
Good.
I will send that off to you tomorrow via email, and you'll have a Apple gift card for $30.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. I'd like to remind everybody to look in the chat for the link to the feedback form. And I encourage you to fill out that form and let us know what you think and how we can make things better. With that, I'm going to capture the chat and say goodnight to everybody.
Good night.
all.
Everybody.
Good night. Night. Good. There it is.
All right.